speak about hypercars. Does anyone here owns a hypercar? Not as I guessed. Well, I can tell you that hypercar are going to be the future of automotive industry, and as I go through my presentation, you'll understand more of why. So let's go first as what is a hypercar? Basically, a vehicle that utilizes like more than one energy to power the vehicle is considered a hypercar. So it means a hypercar will have a regular internal combustion engine, which all cars have, as well as one or more electric motor to power the car at the same time. So I went online and through hybrid.com, through an article read by Brad Bremen. He wrote about the history of hypercars, and the first manufactured hypercar was the famous Toyota Prius. It was 97. As you can see, the car was a slow car and had like an appealing look, but that was like back in 97. And we moved from hypercars from this to the BMW i8, which is this car. So the hypercar have moved so fast from old slow cars into futuristic look and fast cars. And so I read a book by Elon Fuss about hybrid vehicles and the future personal transportation. That was written back in 2008. And he speaks about like how hypercars works and the main type of hypercars and the advantage that hypercars have over the regular cars. So I'm gonna go first about the series hybrid engine because they come in two types. There is series hybrid engine, a parallel hybrid engine, and the third point I'm gonna talk about the reason for companies are investing in hypercars and their advantages. So what is a series hybrid engine? Basically, the book talks about it like in very detailed, very complex information. So I created this diagram to simplify what he's talking about. Basically, you'll have your fuel tank that's going to be sending fuel to the engine and to the powering the generator. Then it goes to the charger, charging the battery, and the battery will send the voltage to the controllers, which is going to control how much electricity going to go to the electric motors to power the wheels. So as you can see, it's just going from one part to another all the way until you reach the wheels. But the thing is, what would you get that type of engine versus a parallel engine? So it has some good qualities and bad. So the first good thing about it is simple drivetrain. Since you have all this connection like in simple way, it makes like manufacturing the car is easier, fixing the car is easier versus having a parallel engine, which is I'm going to explain in the next point. Another good thing about is you can run a car in purely AV. So going back to the diagram, you can see that the engine is not connected to the wheel right away. So you can basically turn off the engine, having the battery just powering the wheel, and you just cancel all these components, and you just have the battery to control and the motor powering the wheel. And you start running low on the battery, you just turn on your engine, charging the battery, and just keep on going with no problem. So what are the bad things about having a parallel engine? The power. Since the power is only coming from the motors doesn't have as strong, as powerful as the internal combustion engine. So you'll not have a lot of power in the car. So it's going to be like not having like 200-300 horsepower because you're running it only on electric motor and you're not using the advantages of the internal combustion engines. Energy loss. Since you're having energy transferring from one part to another, each part has a certain efficiency. Like when you transfer from the engine to the generator, you're losing like 10% of that energy. That's a normal thing in physics. So when you have that much of energy transferring from the engine all the way to the wheels, the question is how many have left when you reach the energy reaches to the wheels. So that's another bad thing about having that type of engine. So the second one is parallel hybrid engines. So and that's the diagram for it. So right here it's different. You're having the electric motor and the engine powering the wheels at the same time. So that's why you have a transmission, because it's going to power the wheels with the electric motor. So this one is much more like less components, but it's more complex because you have two engines powering one at the car at the same time. So what are the good things? Less energy loss. Since you have only few connections, you're not going to lose a lot of energy. You're just going to use the one from here and here powering the engine right away, which makes it less energy loss. Another good thing, you have more power because you have the engine powering the car this time, not only the electric motor. making the car having more power because you're using the internal combustion engine in that case. A bad thing, not efficient. Since you're using the engine is not as efficient as the electric motors, so you're going to basically wasting more gas versus having the electric motor powering the car. Another bad thing is complex mechanical coupling. What I mean about that, when you have two engines powering the car at the same time, you have to make sure of how much power is coming from each engine, because you don't want one of them powering the car more than the other. So connecting it in that way makes it very complex, and manufacturing that type of engine is really complicated matter. So right now, for the third point, is why companies are investing in those hypercars and what are their advantages? Well, first, EPA, which stands for U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Any car that's manufactured and going to be sold, it has to go through them go through tests to make sure they have a certain carbon dioxide emissions. So if it has too high, the car is not going to be allowed to be sold. And this agencies are existing in U.S. and some countries in Europe, which makes it difficult for companies because they have to create a complicated exhaust system. So they go for hybrid cars to be able to sell the car in the future as easy as not like other cars. Another thing, hybrid cars are more efficient than regular engines. You save gas, you have less carbon dioxide emissions, which makes the car very efficient than regular engines. Another thing, hybrid cars can be faster. Believe it or not, there's companies like McLaren, they built their McLaren P1, Porsche 918 Spider, Ferrari, LaFerrari. Those cars are hybrid, and they can be faster, and they're faster than most the car they manufactured ever in their history, because it uses very simple thing. When a car drives and it changes gear from first to second, you'll have that small gap, no acceleration, because the car is changing gear. In those cars, it won't have that, because when the car changes gear in that small gap of no acceleration, you will have the electric motor powering the car, giving you 100% acceleration throughout the track. That's an advantage that they found in it, so that's why they're going to those type of engines, because it's just less fuel lost and can be faster than regular engine. So in conclusion, I went through the series hybrid engine, the parallel hybrid engine, and the reasons for going to hybrid cars versus regular engines. As you can see, why is everyone going to that type of engines? It's just have less fuel efficiency, and it is the future of. Right now we have more hybrid cars we're starting getting more and more hybrid cars than regular internal combustion engines. So I can see in the future maybe everyone's probably going to have hybrid engines. And thank you.